Who does number 2 work for? Who does number 2 work for? That's right, buddy. You show that turd who's boss.
Hello and welcome to another issue of the Headless Hammerhead Guide to Comics and More. Today we're going to continue our series on the Lancer role-playing game, Lancer RPG, specifically about the mech combat, which is probably what a lot of you are looking forward to. So, let's not waste any time, let's get right to it. In mech combat, each player and NPC has a turn. Once each player and NPC has taken their turn, once they've all gone, then that's called a round. Now each turn has 3 actions: a movement, a full action, and then 2 quick actions. So you can also do a bonus, which is overcharge, where you can take another quick action or reaction, and that costs you heat. We'll discuss that in a future video. And here are some examples of types of actions, and again, we'll discuss this in a future video in more detail. But basically, the way it works in Lancer is the PCs, the players, they get to go first, and they choose who takes the first turn during combat. So the players go, one of them goes, then one of the NPCs or hostiles will go, and then another player goes. Usually they're supposed to be nominated by the player who went last. They name who's going to go on the second turn. And then another NPC goes, and they alternate like that until everybody has gone. Once everybody has gone, the round resets to the following round. Now if a player ends the round, then on the next round, the NPCs will take the first turn and start that way, and vice versa. So this makes for much more tactical combat, and this a lot of people have compared this to a strategy board game, kind of like Stratego or Risk during mech combat, and it kind of is a lot. It has a lot of similarities to that. You have different types of area of effect for attacks. You have a line, and then it tells you how many spaces the line goes. Same with the cone. It affects, it starts with 1 space, then it grows to 2, then 3, etc., up to the X, which is the maximum range. You have a blast that affects the number of spaces out from the point of impact. So if you throw a bomb, for example, 3 spaces away, from that 3rd space, the blast expands a number of spaces from that point, compared to contrasted to a burst, which affects the space where it originates from. So if it's, say, shooting out fire or heat from its core, then everyone in the spaces adjacent to his and outward, the number of spaces indicated would be affected. Hey, sorry to interrupt, but if you're liking this video, please hit that like button, the thumbs up. It really helps me out a lot, and also make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. Thank you. Quick note, some of these images are taken from the web app, which is the Lancer FAQ from Netlify. Okay, so during mech combat you do have line of sight and cover. So line of sight is, can you see your target? So targets can be covered by cover, what's called hard cover or soft cover, and we'll discuss that shortly. And then you have some statuses like hidden and invisible that can affect your line of sight as well. So here's a visual representation from the Lancer core rulebook that shows what these ranges and areas of effect look like. So you have your line, that's 3-space line, then you have your cone of 3 spaces, you have a different cone of 3 spaces, you have your blast with a range of 3, so it basically goes 3 spaces, and from that center point of 3 spaces away, that goes out, and then you have your burst of 1 space from the point of origin, which is this mech. So hard cover, if you see here, R is the aggressor, P, G, and M are the targets. So the targets P and G are behind hard cover, which would be, say, a boulder that is larger than they are, and it's fully covering them, so there is no line of sight. And then you have soft cover, which would be, say, a small boulder that's only covering half of character M. So if character M squats behind that soft cover, behind that small boulder, and then they're fully covered, now they would be considered being behind hard cover. So this will all depend on the terrain and of course up to the GM. Alright, so how are attack rolls made? Well, first you have to remember one of the 2 universal rules in Lancer, which is always round up. No matter what it is you're rolling, you always round up. Now when you're making an attack, you can do 3 types of attacks. There's the ranged attack, which is going to require line of sight and range. You have the melee attack, which requires line of sight and what they call threat. Threat is the distance between you and your target in melee range. And then you have tech attack, which requires line of sight and your sensors, because the tech attack is an electronic attack through systems. So to attack, you roll dice 20 versus whichever stat you're rolling against, depending on the type of attack you're doing. And then you add or subtract any accuracy or difficulty. Accuracy, you'd be adding a dice 6. Difficulty, you'd be removing a dice 6. So let's say you have an accuracy of 1. You'd roll your dice 20, say you roll an 11, and then you roll your accuracy dice bonus. You roll a dice 6, you get a 4. Now your result would be a 15. If that was a difficulty dice, then you'd subtract the 4. So from the 11 you subtract 4, you would have a 7. If you roll natural 20, that is a crit, a critical hit. So when you roll a critical hit, you don't double the damage like in most games. What you do is you roll the damage twice and then you pick the higher result. So for example, if your damage is 2 dice 6, you roll and you get a 5 total. Then you roll it again, and if this time you get, say, an 11 total, then you would pick whichever one you want. In this case, you'd probably pick the higher one of the 11. Then we have the types of damage. You've got kinetic, explosive, or energy, and then some special types of damage, which are heat and burn. They're a little bit different than kinetic, explosive, and energy. The reason that's important is because if you have armor or resistance, then your armor will protect you against kinetic, energy, and explosive, but it won't protect you from heat or burn. Resistance, same thing. So heat and burn will go through armor. They're what's considered armor piercing, or AP. Heat generally is applied with a tech attack. It basically makes your mech core reactor overheat, and things happen if it reaches a certain threshold, and we'll discuss that in a future video. And burn damage is persistent, ongoing damage, like a fire on your mech, and it's constantly burning, so it goes through your armor and it's causing damage every single round while it is active. Alright, and how to resolve damage: you roll the damage and then you attach any reductions or increases for damage. Then for the receiver of that damage, you take the armor resistance amount from that roll. So if their armor is 3, you'd remove 3 from the damage total, and then you apply any resistance. Resistance usually halves the damage. So let's say initially you rolled a 9, you subtract 3 from the armor, that's 6. They have a resistance to that type of damage, say kinetic, so then from that 6 it goes to a 3 damage total, because the resistance would take that 6 and cut it by half to make it a 3, and that is the damage you'd receive. Resistances don't stack, so that would be the end of it. You take 3 damage from this attack. And there you have it, another issue in the bag and on the shelf for the Headless Hammerhead Guide to Comics and More. So I hope you got something out of this video. I know I always do. It's always a great refresher to go over the rules. We still haven't started our campaign, so I'm looking forward to it very much. Please check out my other videos where I do some drawings just like this one. This is a rough sketch for a pilot. I will do a video for the final piece, but so far this is what I've got. And you can subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future videos, including these video shorts and full-length drawing videos where you see the process in a time lapse of me making these drawings. Well, I very much appreciate your time and your support. Thank you for watching my videos, and I will see you on the next one.